I get a lot of messages from people who are losing or who have lost their faith, so I thought I'd address this video to them and share the experience I've gained during the last 11 years of being involved with helping ex-Muslims, both as an active member of the Council of Ex-Muslims and since. The first thing I want to say is, you are not alone. There are many going through the same feelings of confusion, depression, and rejection as you are. I know it can feel like your whole world is collapsing, but the good news is that it will pass. So don't panic and don't feel you have to make a quick choice to either leave Islam or stay in Islam. If there is a wise and merciful God, then He will not be angry with you for having doubts, asking questions, or using the minds that He gave you. If there are things that you feel are wrong, don't feel pressured by others to do them. As the Hadith says, leave that which makes you doubt for that which does not make you doubt. Think for yourself and do what feels right to you. If there is a God, then this is why He gave us a mind and a conscience. Take one day at a time. Having doubts can be very scary, especially if we have been taught that doubts come from shaitan and have had the fear of hell drummed into us. But don't feel guilty. Having doubts doesn't make you a bad person. Everyone's journey is different, but there are some common stages that I have seen time and time again, and I think it may be helpful to share that with you. The first stage is often the denial, anger, and blame stage, denying there is anything wrong with Islam, anger towards critics and blaming the West or anything or anyone for provoking and creating problems. The next stage is often a move away from traditional or classical views, insisting Islam is perfect, but that it is Muslims' interpretations that are wrong. Many start discarding hadith and become Quranists, or take on progressive interpretations of problematic verses. This stage is similar to the bargaining stage put forward by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross in her research into how people deal with grief. In this stage, one will do anything to save one's faith, and so we try to negotiate our way out in order to avoid trauma. Another common reaction is to tell ourselves there must be explanations beyond our capacity to understand, and we must simply hold fast to the rope of Allah and push our doubts out of mind. This is almost always futile, because like Pandora's box, one can't unthink thoughts and ideas once they are out in the open. The next stage is often depression, losing that anchor, that feeling of rock-solid truth that we were brought up to believe. This can feel like your whole world is collapsing. All of a sudden, the certainties that gave your life meaning, direction, comfort, and a sense of who you are have evaporated. You feel like you have nothing to hold on to, and may feel a sense of nihilism, that life has no meaning and there is no point going on. This stage can feel like it will last forever, but the good news is that it won't. Depression of this kind is a perfectly natural response to such a great loss, and it will eventually pass. As David Kessler in the book On Grief and Grieving says, grief is a process of healing, and depression is one of the many necessary steps along the way. The final stage is acceptance, but acceptance doesn't mean everything is fine. It just means accepting the reality of the situation and learning to live with it. This is an extremely difficult stage as one tries to readjust one's life. Ex-Muslims come from families, communities, and relationships that form the foundation of our whole identity and place in the world. Looking for new meaning, new identities, and new communities to be part of is an enormously difficult task. It is usually the case that family and friends and community reject you and tell you that you are bad, sinful, misguided, and even possessed. They may disown you or threaten you with violence. This can create a negative self-image and a self-loathing, which can become a self-fulfilling prophecy and cause destructive behavior. When someone is excluded from the society that protected them and gave them a sense of normality, they can find themselves pushed to the fringes and to subcultures whose values and norms differ substantially. They are made to feel like outsiders, and so become outsiders. Until apostasy is normalized and the stigma removed, sadly this will continue to be a danger ex-Muslims will face. Some also feel a sense of anger and betrayal and the urge to hit back, and this can cause negative and unhealthy feelings such as hate, and sadly there is no shortage of far-right xenophobes and fundamentalist Christians seeking to take advantage of ex-Muslims for their own purposes. But again, this is just a stage that some ex-Muslims go through, and most do eventually regain perspective and balance. But it's not all bad news, as this stage is also an exciting period. It is an enormous relief to finally let go of all the disingenuous apologetics and mental gymnastics that one is forced to in order to justify aspects of Islam that one simply no longer believes in. The world is no longer divided into a them versus us dichotomy, and we gain a new universalistic and inclusive perspective. Of course, not every ex-Muslim goes through identical stages, and ex-Muslims, like any other group, are individuals with different experiences, different backgrounds, different characters, and have different responses to their situations. I must, however, add a word of caution. If you feel you will be in danger, then personal safety comes first, and it may be necessary to keep things to yourself, at least until you are in a position of independence and security. I have included some links in the info bar to organisations that may be able to help, such as Faith to Faithless and the Council of Ex-Muslims. At the end of the day, it is your journey. Do your own research and don't be bullied, nor be in a hurry. Be patient. Each morning is a new day. You will find your way, a way that brings you inner peace. Yes, it can be a very bumpy road, but whether you leave Islam or remain a Muslim, it doesn't matter. What matters is your character, your behaviour, your love, your empathy, and that you are true to yourself. If there truly is a wise and loving God, then he could not demand any more than that.